Penguin Random House Audio presents Speaking in Thumbs, a psychiatrist decodes your relationship texts so you don't have to. Written and read by Mimi Winsberg, with additional narration by Robbie Daymond, Shimali de Silva, Kim My Guest, Barrett Leddy, Keylor Leigh, and Leigh Osorio. This is the author, Mimi Winsberg. Introduction. If a pair of Bottega Veneta ballet flats could stomp, then I would say Agnes stomped down the long hallway and into the cavernous room that is my office. Instead of flinging herself onto the gray sectional, she leaned stiffly against a drafting chair, clutching her phone like a sacred tablet. Her nails were the color of the accent wall, the carpet, and the cigarette pack peeking out of the purse, slung low against the thigh of her white capri pants. Celadon. I had acknowledged her arrival and was waiting for a response. At 32, Agnes was used to being the smartest person in the room, and it showed in the way she carried herself. She was an MIT graduate and a level 6 engineer at Facebook, making more money than a surgeon or a top corporate lawyer. Now she was wearing a mixture of scowl and pout. "I don't get it," she said, thrusting the ridiculously dim screen of her phone at me. I put on my glasses, which I seldom do around my patients. A text message from a man named Jason read, "Let's talk when you are back from your trip." "What's the matter?" I ventured. They'd met online recently and had just spent a lovely weekend together, talking, hiking, cooking, feeling. She was hurt and annoyed by his text and wasn't sure why. "What does this mean? How should I respond?" she asked. I could read the subtext. Why isn't the relationship developing the way I think it should? "You know about sharks? How they have to stay in motion?" I said. "Otherwise they die," she replied. "Exactly. People assume relationships are like sharks, that they need to move forward to survive. Well, they're not. They move in mysterious ways, or sometimes not at all." Agnes slumped into the drafting chair, rolled it beside me, and handed me her phone. We began to dissect her online chats with Jason to see if we were dealing with a shark or perhaps an animal with a better chance of survival. "I've got a story for you. It's my own story, but I've been a psychiatrist long enough to know that it's a common one. Over 25 years of practice, my couch has provided me with a window into people's intimate lives, their hopes, their dreams, and their worries. It has shown that we're all creatures of romantic attachment, not to mention the victims of epic dating fails. I've listened to countless colorful accounts of my patients' online dating, just like Agnes's, their heartening successes and their heart-stopping failures, the thrill of connection and the agony of rejection. So if I've got a story, it's only because you've had so many stories for me. Those narratives themselves have always been psychiatry's bread and butter. While medicine continues to grasp for the biological and genetic underpinnings of mental illness, which neurochemicals cause us to be depressed, anxious, compulsive, our stories remain a quick and reliable tool for understanding ourselves, available to one and all. In psychiatry, we call it the heuristic approach. A heuristic is a problem-solving method that uses shortcuts to come to quick conclusions. We can't analyze every synapse, download every experience, and sum up a person. We likely never will. But the heuristic approach offers us something else. Through stories and the way we make them meaningful, we can engage in a fruitful process of learning and discovery. Scientifically speaking, stories have a bad rap. Anecdotal evidence is considered by science a lesser form of knowledge when compared with cold, hard data. Feelings, impressions, unsupported theories, they abound in the writings of psychiatry's forefathers, largely dismissed today. Freud himself acknowledged that his case histories should read like short stories. They lack the emphasis on data that we've come to expect, the serious stamp of science. He focused instead on the connection between our narratives and our symptoms. The idea that our psychiatric conditions could be understood by analyzing the stories we tell ourselves about life events. I witnessed firsthand the role that stories can play in understanding symptoms when I was in medical school. I had elected to do some work in refugee camps in Asia, as well as a rotation at a local clinic that served Southeast Asian refugees. Many of the patients had not only been displaced, but suffered significant trauma. Their stories, relayed through an interpreter, were both tragic and compelling. One Cambodian woman described a psychosomatic blindness, losing her sight after watching her husband being stabbed to death with sharp sticks. As Freud suggested, her symptoms could only be understood through her recollections. No eye exam or CT scan could do them justice. This experience brought my interest in mental health into sharp focus. Even when I was a young medical student, my willingness to listen to people's stories could be powerful and life-changing for them and for me. It is what we do as humans, after all. We tell stories about ourselves and the people in our lives. Some of the stories are true, some distorted, some frankly false. As a psychiatrist, I am trained to listen to patients' stories in a specific way, to draw out their histories, their family backgrounds, their symptoms and struggles. Some of what I do is to help patients tell a new story about themselves. And of course, many of the stories I've heard in my practice have been about love. Love being one of the greatest stories, one that gives our lives meaning. Love is always a story we tell first to ourselves and then to each other. For 3 years, I did my listening at the very place that is credited, or blamed, for inventing the predominant means of online human communication today. At Facebook, I listened to Silicon Valley's alpha and beta testers, its disruptors and innovators. The inventors and shepherds of the algorithm, that impenetrable sequence of code that promises deeper and more profound connection with our fellow humans. They were, and still are, my patients. Those geniuses who know how you tick, I know how they tick. Now, I should admit that for all this talk of stories and their primacy, I'm not immune to the lure of technology. At Facebook and beyond, I've seen the power of data firsthand. In the age of big data and measurable outcomes, now even psychiatry, founded on the intangibles of emotion, has felt the pull. The field has gone digital. I've been fortunate enough to be at the center of it, helping to lead the charge as digital health companies attempt to apply data science, measurement-based care, and even artificial intelligence to the study of human behavior and its associated illnesses. I co-founded Brightside Health, a digital behavioral health company at the convergence of technology and mental health. At Brightside, we treat depression and anxiety over telemedicine, using state-of-the-art technology to help patients and providers select treatment plans and manage care. While patients have long relied on trained clinicians for diagnostic impressions and treatment selections, we are now more and more turning to machines, which can help us recognize patterns that humans routinely miss. The past 5 years of my work in digital health have centered on training machines to recognize symptom clusters in text messages. In other words, using technology to pore over our digital communication and reveal crucial facts about behavioral health. As a leader in mental health, Brightside has pioneered advances in both diagnosis, recognizing the telltale signs of mental illness, and triage, judging how urgent a patient's illness is, as well as the selection of appropriate psychiatric treatments. Effectively, we're wrangling data to understand both internal psychology and external behavior, training machines not only how to think, but how to shrink. Alongside all this big data, I've seen the rise of big dating. Any technology of real value has always been quickly adapted to suit our most primal desires. So with the advent of personal and mobile computing, it's perhaps inevitable that online dating has, in a matter of a decade or two, gone from the fringes to the norm. More than 50 million American adults say they either have used or continue to use a dating app in the pursuit of romance. Tinder alone processes 1.6 billion swipes.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?